Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sisterly. You're here with your co-hosts. You know the drill, Rebecca and Olivia. We're so happy to have you back. We have been chatting for far too long before starting this episode, let me tell you.
This is the problem. We get on these to record, and then Olivia and I just shoot the shit for an hour before
So
we start.
long. We talk about literally everything. It's ridiculous. Talked about Love Island, talked about work, talked about Taylor Swift, concert tickets. Anywho, I would just like to say I have a bone to pick with concerts in general. And I feel like
And
it's even
Ticketmaster verified.
Ticketmaster
We're
verified.
beefing hardcore.
I think it's Rebecca looks so upset right now.
I am. I'm so mad. I literally have registered twice now for tickets to concerts I really wanted to go to. Adele and Olivia Rodrigo. And I was denied both times for fan pre-registration. And I'm like, why am I not good enough? I'm clearly a fan. I buy all their albums. Look at my Spotify streamed history. Come on.
Yeah, no, that's so fair. And in fairness, I was verified for both of them, tried to get
Rude.
tickets to both of them. Both of them were too expensive. Adele was like $500. Olivia Rodrigo was like $700 and up. So, I mean, that's not the tickets that
It was the resold.
originally get
Yeah.
released. It's well, the Adele ones were. Those were the original
Yeah, the Adele
prices,
ones were, yeah.
which it's not that I don't think Adele is worth $500 a ticket. She's a queen. I don't
Yeah.
have that money to give her.
But
So,
also, it's for her Vegas thing. So it's it's not just the ticket. You have to get yourself there. You have to stay
right.
there. It ends up being a whole thing. It's not just
Yeah.
in your city.
Yeah, plus
Oh,
Vegas is not a cheap place to
right.
go visit.
No one goes
So
to
it wouldn't
Vegas
have
to
been
save money. So
yeah, so we're gonna miss Adele in Vegas, but she better freaking tour
I
again.
know she better forget. Also, can I just say that Mike, my boyfriend Mike, registered, this is very sweet. He told me after the fact. He registered for the Olivia Rodrigo fan pre-registration because he wanted to surprise me and get tickets for us to her concert, which was so cute and I would have loved it. And he got approved for fan registration. And I was like, what the heck? I don't get approved, but he does. I clearly listen to her all the time. I follow her on all social media. And he gets registered, but not me. I was
Your
like,
FBI agent is not working hard enough.
I know they're not working hard enough at all, but I thought that was so sweet that he did that. But of course,
It is very sweet.
he still tried to get in there with his verified thing and still couldn't get us tickets. So the world is a cruel place.
It's
But
a cruel place.
Olivia
I was
Rodrigo, you need to tour again and more shows and bigger venues, please and thank you.
yes, please and thank you. Seriously, her the venue she was playing were way too small given
They're all
how
general
popular she is.
admission. I'm like, the girl is nominated for a bajillion Grammys. Come on now.
Yeah,
Let's go.
you don't do a general admission show if you're nominated for best record of the year or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Album of the year.
Right. Come on. Oh.
Anywho, so tough times.
Yeah, so as you can tell, I'm salty about that.
Yeah, and as you should be. So that's just where we're starting off today, in case anyone wanted just to level set with us and what the vibe is. But so we were thinking about, obviously the year is wrapping up. Goodbye 2021. See you never. You were honestly almost just as bad, if not worse, maybe as 2020.
I know, potentially worse, just because it was
worse.
just the drawn out trauma of it all.
Yeah, it was just continued monotony and continued trauma. So thanks for nothing. But anywho, so we were thinking
No
about
one
this.
say 2022 is your year. We're not claiming it as
one.
ours.
No,
We're
it's
gonna
not our
wait and
year.
see what happens.
We're going in humbly.
We're going in
humbly
humbly
into 2022. Okay, hoping for the best, preparing for the worst.
We're touching nothing.
Touching nothing. Okay, but as we were thinking about kind of the end of the year, and we were being reflective, we were thinking a lot about forgiveness as a concept, and just kind of wanted to talk about it today. We don't forgive 2021 for what she's done, or 2020.
We do not forgive and we do not forget.
Yeah, we try our best to forget. It's hard.
We do try, but
we really do. But we just wanted to talk about it because I feel like forgiveness is an interesting topic, and I think it's really personal, obviously. And I think, one thing we really want to talk about too is not just forgiving others, but also forgiving yourself. And I think the forgiving yourself piece is like the one that for me is super important. And I don't know, I just thought it was a nice wrap up as we go into a new year, just like tying up some loose ends, especially with yourself, like maybe things that you're holding on to or being really hard on yourself about, just like trying to forgive yourself for these things as we go into 2022 humbly,
Quietly,
quietly,
cautiously.
cautiously. We make no big entrance. Okay?
We come in peace.
We come in peace. I have a fun, like a quick little story about the new year. So my team held like a company event at the beginning of 2020, and the theme was like no stress. And we got these balloons for the event that literally said New Year, no stress. And at the end of the event, we put them up like by our workspace. Um, and I came back into the office, a year and a half after the pandemic started and the balloons are just still there that say "New Year, no stress." And if that isn't the saddest thing you've ever heard of, I don't know what is. So, anywho, and they're still there, by the way. No one even wants to take them down because it's just so embarrassing that they're up there in the first place.
We were so young and
So
naive.
naive, so stupid,
So
truly.
yeah. Oh, bless our little hearts. We just didn't even
Bless
know
our
back
hearts.
in January 2020. We thought it was
Truly.
gonna be our year.
Maybe we can
Oh, how
forgive
wrong we
ourselves for
were.
being
I
so
know.
stupid.
Oh, truly.
But anywho, okay, so starting with just forgiveness in general. So like the first thing that we were thinking of is like, okay, what does it mean
Yeah,
to
what does it
forgive
mean
someone?
to forgive? I feel like forgiveness to me is like when someone hurts you or harms you and you decide that you either released those feelings or those feelings like don't have a hold over you anymore. And it can be, I mean, we'll get to this, but it can be like somebody has apologized for their behavior and has intentions of changing their behavior. And so you feel like they understand where you were coming from, and you feel understood. And so you can move beyond those feelings because you felt heard out. But sometimes there isn't that other half of it. It's just you on your own deciding to forgive and move past something. And it's sort of like coming to peace with a situation or an event or a feeling and deciding that you're letting that go.
Totally. I think also there's like an empathy piece to forgiveness as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where you're able to like understand maybe where the other person is coming from or why they did something that hurt you or upset you, and you're kind of willing to accept it and release it almost.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think it's really complicated. Um,
Yeah.
I think there's a wide range of things. There's like small indiscretions, I guess we could say. Accidents that are easier to forgive. I mean, smaller accidents, I guess, that are easier to forgive people for. And they're kind of like bigger ones. Where someone really hurt you or someone else that are harder to move past. Um, and so one question that kind of came up when we were thinking about this is like, can you forgive someone without them apologizing? And I think that's really
Yeah.
interesting because I think it's a lot easier to forgive someone when they give you a genuine
Yeah.
apology, when they're able to say, I did this wrong. I know I did this wrong. I'm sorry. This is how I'm going to improve in the future or make it better. But
Yep.
sometimes you don't get that at all. You
Yeah.
don't get
You don't
any
get that
type of closure
validation.
or validation. You don't get any of that.
Yeah.
And you're
That's a
left with
lot
this.
harder to forgive when you don't get the other half of that equation being like, I understand and I apologize and here's what I'm going to do differently from now on.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because there's research out there that says that when you forgive others, you feel better, right? Like
Yeah.
just in general, you're a happier, less stressed person when you're able to forgive. But that can be really hard, like we said, especially when someone's not apologizing. So I think for me personally, it's like it's tricky. There are, I think, a lot of different scenarios in that situation. I think I'm the type of person that it's easier for me to forgive someone for something if they don't apologize, if in the future they act differently, if that makes sense.
Yeah, mhm.
You
Like, if
know,
it's a
like
person who stays in your life, but they did a thing that hurt you and they never owned up to it, but they never did it again.
yeah,
Because, like, you can tell that they actually got it, that
yeah.
they know that they did wrong.
And that's happened with me with, like, friends from childhood, for example, like, when we were kids, they did something that really hurt me, and they either never really apologized for it, or they apologized for it, like, a decade later,
After the
when
fact.
we were already fine and all that, but I think the key thing for me there was that they treated me poorly in a moment, but, like, in the present day, they are good friends to me, or they're reliable, or, they don't treat me that way anymore, like,
Right, right,
because
it
people
was
can
like
grow and change, especially when you're a kid,
yeah.
um, but I think it's really hard if, say, someone did something to you in the past and they didn't apologize, don't know why it's wrong, and then they just continuously do it.
Yeah. It's very hard to forgive someone who repeats the same harmful behavior because it shows that they didn't learn anything or they don't get why you feel upset. And so I feel like to keep a person in your life, if they keep hurting you over and over again, it's very hard to forgive that when they don't seem sorry.
Totally, it's a very tricky situation. Um, and then another thing we were thinking about too is, like, to really forgive someone, do you also have to forget?
Yeah. I think that I have trouble with this. I feel like I forgive but remember, and not in like a hold grudges kind of way. Like I know some people who are like, I forgive, but also if they ever cross me again, I'm gonna remember this and I'm gonna bring it up. Or like I'm gonna like keep
Totally.
a tally of all the things that they did that wrong me, and I'm gonna like pull out my scroll with my list of past grievances that I said I was okay with, but I really am not. And like I'm not like that, but I do think that if someone like actually deeply hurts me, and even if I forgive them, I become a bit more cautious. Like I think
Yeah,
I still it takes me some time and the actions of the other person being consistent and not doing that same thing again to be like, okay, I can really like move beyond whatever it was. Like I can forgive and accept someone's apology, but I'm also like, I'm not gonna immediately forget how someone made me feel, or if they like, I don't know, say like betrayed my trust, or
mhm,
like, did something unkind, or I don't know, something like that, that it makes you feel like, can I trust this person the same way that I did? Or do I think about them the same way I did before? If it's like something really serious, you know what I mean? And
totally.
and then it's like you're not gonna hold that over them, you're not gonna, like, dangle it over them, but it's more so just like, okay, you gotta, like, proceed a little bit more cautiously than maybe before until time shows that, nope, they can be trusted, that was, like, we've moved on and it's fine.
Definitely. I think for me, I don't forget anything.
Yeah,
I don't know what it
Olivia has the memory of an elephant.
is. But, like, only for people who I feel have wronged me. Like, if it's other stuff, I'll forget it easy. But no, I don't forget anything. But I do think as I've gotten older, what I've realized is, like, I don't forget anything, but I also won't, like, whip out something. Sorry.
Yeah.
Whip that was just, like, a weird phrasing of things, but I won't, like, bring up something from the super past in,
Yeah,
like, a present day situation,
right.
especially if I've never addressed it.
Right, it's like it's not fair to bring up in the
No,
present something, like, super long ago that you've never ever said. Or it's like if you wanna
totally.
talk about that thing, like, you need to bring that up on a separate occasion and be like, "You know what's the thing that's kinda bothered me and we never talked about?" But it can't be, like, in the heat of the moment, you bring up every grievance you've ever had.
No, because it's not productive or fair.
Yeah.
So I don't think I really forget things. I wish I did, honestly, like,
I
I wish
know,
I
it'd
could
be
just let shit
it's like
go.
Ted Lasso says, like, "Be a goldfish, 3-second
Yeah.
memory." Like,
Yeah,
that'd be great.
seriously. Um And I don't know why I'm like that. Maybe it's because 'cause I'm a Scorpio, I don't know. But anywho, I really have trouble forgetting, but I do think I can, like, I really do forgive, which I feel like
Yeah,
sounds
that's good.
contradicting, but I really do think that I'm someone who forgives easily because I am so hard on myself. I
Yeah, and
don't
you're so glad when someone forgives you that you're
totally.
like
I feel like I'm the type of
gracious.
person, if someone actually apologizes to me, it, like, really means the world. Like, when someone can look at me and say, like, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. I should have done it differently." I'm like, "Amazing. Thank you for, like, recognizing that." And we can
Right,
just
right.
move
Thanks
on.
for validating my feelings and glad we had this chat.
Totally. And, like, little things like that, like, I no, I won't remember that for the rest of my life. I'll get over it. It's just, like, silly things, like, when people really hurt my feelings in, like, grade school, like, I still remember that. And no, I will never forget it.
Yeah.
Even though I
So
might
some of
still
those,
be
like, deep core traumatic memories. It's hard to
yeah. Yeah, it is. It's really
forget.
hard. It's really hard to get over some of those, let me tell you. Even the littlest thing, I have one friend and we laugh about it now. I think it was in 3rd grade. She wasn't the nicest to me in 3rd grade. She's a great friend now though. But she came up to me and was like, "I just want to let you know that everyone else is invited to my birthday party and you're not invited."
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's rough. I want everyone to know that I continue to roast her about it to this day, that she said that to me, and she feels very bad about it now as an adult, but people are bitches when they're 8 years old, okay? And so I was also annoying at 8 years old. And so but, like,
Oh my
things like that, like, I'll always remember that, and it's not like I hold it against her anymore, like, I
Right,
know
right.
that
She's
she
like a
is
different
not that
person than the
person
8-year-old.
anymore,
Yeah.
but it's like there's still that thing of I remember that time when I was the one person left out of a birthday party, you know? And, like,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
all have that in different capacities, and I'm sure we've all, like, kind of attributed to someone else's childhood memory that they can never forget and
Right.
wish they could.
Yeah.
Like, we're all those people in someone's lives.
Yeah. It's also interesting
Um
how, like, different people handle when they feel wronged or, like, forgiveness and things like that. Like, I remember I had a really good friend of mine, and I did something that, like, really upset her during college, and it was just me being kinda, like, careless, like, I wasn't really, like, thinking it through. I didn't think my what I did was gonna, like, have any sort of impact because I don't know, I didn't really think it through, and it was just sort of I think the reason it hurt so much is that I'm normally a very thoughtful person, and it was kind of a thoughtless thing that I did, which felt, I think, very out of character, to my friend about me doing that, and her reaction was to stop talking to me and to, like,
mm,
cut me off, like, not respond to my texts, like, not respond to my calls, like, completely ignore me, and I had never been sort of, like, frozen out like that, and this was also, like, a genuinely, like, good friend, not just kinda like an acquaintance, and I was just like, "I refuse to be iced out." So I literally, like, I called her and I was like, "If you don't answer me, like, I'm gonna show up at your door." Like, this was at college, so we all live in the same place. So I
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
I'm gonna camp outside. Like, we're gonna talk it out." And I think she was just, like, so upset, but, like, didn't know how to, like, have a conversation about, like, conflict or didn't want to say, like, "You hurt my feelings." Like, she wanted to just come off as, like, mad rather than sad by
Mhm.
me, and but I was, like, relentless. I was like, "You have to forgive me." Like, I just, like, I can't
If you
I
want
can't lose your
forgiveness, just demand it.
no,
Don't
just demand it like I did. But I think honestly, I think she respected my hustle and my perseverance, and she had told me, she was like, "No, any other time in the past where someone's, like, upset me, I just kinda, like, cut them off and I just don't ever talk to them again." But we're
You're like,
still
"We should
friends
look
to
into
this
that.
day,
We should look into that."
and I just relentlessly, apologized and owned up to my behavior until she came around. Did she forget it? I doubt it, but she forgave me. So,
I was gonna say, when you first told this story, I honestly thought that it might have been that time that you were in college and you stole my dress when I told you not to take
oh
it.
my
Thought that was the story.
another out of character moment for me.
And once again, it's like, do I hold it against you as a person? No, but will I ever forget it?
No.
Also, no. Because let me
No.
just tell this story. I've
You
told
roast
you
me for it forever, and you should, because what was I
I will
doing? I
tell
don't know.
anyone with ears this story because if you've listened to her episodes, you probably know Rebecca pretty well at this point, and she's a very kind person and very, I don't know, like very dependable. I think she was a freshman in college and I was a freshman in high school. I think that was where we were.
Yeah, I think I was a
And
freshman.
I had this dress that I got from like Forever 21. Let
Yeah,
me
this was, like, not
say,
an
it's
exciting
not a
dress, it
nice
was
dress.
just, like, a dress.
Also, I wouldn't be caught dead wearing it now. Like, I remember what it
What were
looks
you
like,
even
and it's
thinking?
not cute. And Rebecca came home from college, and she was like, "Oh, I really like your dress. can I take it to school?" And I was like, "No, it's mine. I like this dress. Please don't take it." What does Rebecca do? She took it to college after we had had a conversation in which I said, "Do not take it."
Yep.
Anywho, I just think it's hysterical because it's, like, so out of character. It's like she had an aneurysm and
I know, I was like, body snatched for a moment,
literally,
just like
literally like a deep like, such a low key thing to do, but it's like a demon took over your body, took the dress.
I know, it's just, like,
So
so not like
crazy.
me. I remember doing it, and I was just like, "Who am I? Like, am I really gonna steal her dress right now?" I just, like I don't know what came over me. I'm gonna blame, like, the hormones of being a 19-year-old or something,
Yeah,
but
that's
I don't
fair.
know.
I don't know, that was, like, your one rebel moment of life, so it's okay. I'm honored to be a part of it. Um, so as we're talking about all of this, I think kind of what wraps this up is just this idea of, do we have to forgive everyone in our life? Not everyone in our lives, maybe not everyone needs to be forgiven, but do you have to forgive someone to still have them in your life in general?
Right, like, you could forgive someone, but also decide that it's not right for you to have them in your life at all or in the same way that they were. Like, you can be like, "I'm genuinely not mad anymore," but it also you're not, like, a great fit for
Yeah,
my
sometimes
life.
it's just shows someone like it shows you someone's true colors,
Yeah.
and you just like your values might not align, and it's just not going to work out in a friendship or relationship or anything. I think also too there can be times where someone never asks for apology, and so you can never forgive them, or maybe they did apologize and you just like still don't forgive them and you do keep them in your lives. I have to say, I don't know for me personally if someone could apologize and then I was like, "I don't forgive you, but I'll continue to be your friend." I don't know a situation
Yeah.
in which that would happen for me, but I think there have been situations, I know there have been situations where people haven't apologized, or maybe they never noticed that they did something wrong, and I have continued to keep them in my life.
Mhm.
And I think it's like it's kind of a hard decision, and I think it's very different for each person, but sometimes I was saying this to a friend the other day, like sometimes you just kind of have to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means that they are unable to notice that they've done something wrong, or maybe they know what you're upset about, but they just don't think that they did anything that deserves an apology. And
Mhm.
sometimes that can definitely be enough to say, "You know what? I'm done with this relationship in whatever capacity it is." And sometimes it's like, "This still makes me upset, but I still wanna have you in my life."
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's hard for me because I can be very, like, all or nothing with
Right,
people.
right.
I've gotten better about, like, my communicating of that, but I can very much be, like, a super loyal friend, your best friend, like, there for you whenever you need, and when someone does something to hurt me, I'm very quick to just be like, "I should just back out." Like,
Yeah.
I should just, like, run now, like, just
Cut
call
my
it
ties
quits,
and
cut
yeah.
my ties, like, "We're good, we're done, thank
Let me
you
tell
for
you, my
this
friend who was ready
experience."
to cut me off, also a Scorpio. I feel like it's a Scorpio
Oh my god,
tendency.
seriously?
Yeah.
Yikes. Called the F out. Um And I actually like, I feel like I literally trained myself to stop doing that because it's not productive.
Yeah. And it's just like sometimes it's like just to your own detriment. Like sometimes it's like, okay, someone it could be toxic and it's like, yeah, you know what? They've screwed up too many times and proven themselves to be like hurtful to me, like let
Yeah,
them go. But sometimes it's like someone really just makes a bad mistake and it's like if you give them the opportunity, they'll they'll explain themselves, apologize, validate your feelings, and then you don't need to lose a friend that you other or whatever relationship it is like that you would otherwise have a lot of value in your life.
totally. I remember I had one friend in high school and we had a falling out because of, like, prom drama, which
Oh
is
my god,
just
there's always prom
so
drama, isn't there?
hysterical. But she really did something to me that I was like, it wasn't even that it was so bad in the long run. I just was like, "I don't wanna be friends with you if this is the kind of person you are."
Yeah.
Like, I felt like she basically chose other people over our friendship, like, people she wasn't really friends with.
Yeah.
And I was like, "That's just not my kind of friend." And it was, like, the end of our senior year. We were going to schools on the opposite sides of the country, and I was just like, "No, I'm kinda just done with our friendship." Like, this it's not worth it to me to try and, like, work through this. I just don't think that you're someone I wanna be friends with.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know, maybe that's a little maybe some people will say that's cold, but I was just like, "Nah, I
Yeah.
don't like, I would be a very good friend to you, and this is you didn't treat me the same way, so I'm kinda done with that." Um,
Yeah.
but then in other instances, I think, yeah, I've just been okay with the fact that I don't know if even I'm okay with it. I think it's just, like, you look at the totality of your relationship and the pros outweigh the cons, or, like, the good times outweigh those moments where maybe you felt like you were owed an apology and you kinda just keep moving forward.
Mhm.
And then I think the last piece too is, how do we determine if we don't wanna forgive at all? And
Yeah.
is that okay? Because, I was reading these articles online about how great forgiveness is for your own, like, mental health and just health in
Yeah.
general. And I mean, I was like, "I agree." It's, like, scientifically proven, so, there's nothing for me to agree or disagree with, it's just a fact.
I accept the facts. Thank you.
It's not an opinion, it is just a fact. Um, but I think, like, there are some instances in which you don't have to forgive someone, and I think that that's okay too, but I do believe that you have to find
Some sort
some
of like
closure.
peace.
Yeah,
Yeah,
some peace with
exactly.
it.
Because I feel like the thing about not forgiving someone is maybe you're holding on to it because you want you're like holding on to an anger, or you feel very justified in your feelings and you want that other person
Mhm.
to know that you don't forgive them. But I feel like what ends up happening is that it just hurts you instead of them. Like, because
Totally.
you have to hold on to those feelings. Like, you have to sit with like anger or bitterness or upset or disappointment. And I feel like that there is a way, although it's very hard, to not necessarily forgive someone because, maybe they really don't deserve forgiveness, but come to some sort of peace so that you're not actually holding on to all of that negative emotion and letting it like eat you up.
Right, like, maybe you decide that they're not someone you wanna have in your life long term, but you aren't actively angry with them all
Yeah.
the time, or, like, sending out, like, a negative energy, which maybe sounds, like, kinda silly, but I feel like you can feel it in your body when you're just, like, angry with someone and you can't let
Mhm.
it go.
Yeah.
Like, it takes a toll on you, and it's
Mhm.
exhausting, and so I feel like you have to find a way to put that to bed. Otherwise, it's always gonna be there nagging at you.
Yeah, it's like it's bad for your body and it's also just like wasteful. Like it
Totally.
wastes your time, your energy, like your mental space to think about a person who you feel wronged you. Like even if they very much did and your feeling is totally justified, and I think it's totally reasonable to like spend whatever time you need to be like mad or disappointed and go through whatever process you need to like maybe grieve that relationship, but to hold on to it too long, it's like what is that expression? It's like bitterness. Is it bitterness? Bitterness is a curved blade. Like it
Mm.
just goes into you instead. Like it's like you're trying to put it outwards, but it just like hurts you instead. I could be
Wow,
saying it
that
right, and
was
I think it,
deep AF.
but I remember I heard that once, and I just was like, I feel like that's so right. Like when I
Yeah,
come across people who like really hold like forgive and don't forget and like hold a grudge, or
yeah.
like don't forgive and don't forget and hold a grudge, and rather
There's no
there's no
good
forgiveness.
nothing good out of
um
that.
it just like it really eats at that person and also like prevents new things and new experiences from like lifting them up out of that and like
Yeah,
bringing them towards something better, like stronger relationships. And I just, yeah, I feel like it, even if you can't forgive the person, maybe they haven't apologized and they haven't given you an opportunity to do that, to just like be at peace with knowing that you're okay without them, that your life is okay. And I think a lot of times when people like won't let go of some of that stuff, it's like not being able to forgive yourself.
yeah, which is a perfect segue into what we also wanted to talk about, was just, like, the self-forgiveness piece, which I think is actually the hardest
Yeah.
for me, and I think for a lot of people. Because because I would say I'm my harshest critic, and so would my therapist, so it's verified. Um,
Hashtag verified.
how should I verify?
Blue check
I have a
mark.
little yeah, blue check mark next to me, harshest critic. Um, I deal with a lot of, like, shame and guilt for even some of, like, the smallest things, like, when I feel like when I say that out loud, it sounds like I feel shame and guilt for, like, murder, and it's just not that deep. It's just, like, the littlest things, that I just can't, seem to let go of. And it's interesting, sharing some of my secrets from therapy. One of the things my therapist often talks about is like, so she talks about my inner critic, and she'll oftentimes have me like speak to my inner critic, which is weird. It's like talking to herself. And just like having a conversation, like almost with like my rational brain and this critical brain. Um, and like she's even suggested me like naming that part of my
The
brain. I haven't
critical
yet because
voice.
yeah, I haven't yet because it makes me feel like I have multiple voices in my head and that stresses me out. Um, but that she has suggested it. And yeah, like naming that critic. So it's almost like easier to have a conversation.
Right, to be like,
Um,
Brenda says this, but Brenda doesn't know what she's
yeah,
talking
but
about.
Brenda's a bitch. And so I think I always find that really interesting. And like this has happened with several therapists that I've had before. And like sometimes I will have a therapist that literally like makes me have a conversation with like the air in front of me that is myself. And that's always weird. But sometimes really helpful to just like rationalize with yourself, feeling like you're talking to someone else. Because once again, we're way more rational and kinder to strangers than we are to ourselves a lot of the time.
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes too, she'll also ask me like, who do I really think that voice is? And like it's different in every situation. But if
Right,
I'm being
right.
really like critical of myself about my friends or worried that I don't know, like I'm not as good of a friend as I want to be or something like that, she'll like ask me like, where do you think that voice is coming from? And sometimes it's like the kids who are mean to me when I was growing up. And it's like
Yeah.
those are the people that are speaking to me right now, like not me.
Yeah, and not your actual friends who think you're a
Right.
great friend.
Right. It's like these people who aren't in my life anymore, who are not significant, but just hold so much power and make it hard to move on and then forgive myself or cut myself a break too. Cause like sometimes it's not as like deep as like true forgiveness.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah.
it's like I leave a party and I'm like, was I talking too much? Like, I don't know. And it's like you gotta just cut yourself a break.
Yeah.
And it's like once again, who's saying that? It's like the boy who I worked with, throwback to our workplace episode, that told me that I talk too much. Like that's
Yeah,
what's
that's your
speaking to me
critic,
right
not
now.
yeah.
And I don't know, I think it's very
That's a
helpful.
good point.
And
I'm gonna start thinking about that. Like, what voice is talking to me right now? It's not mine.
listen, there's a reason the therapists make a lot of money, okay?
I got some good freaking ideas. I'm gonna use
Insightful
that
shit.
one.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's kind of blowing my mind. I'm gonna think on that later.
We love her, my therapist. We love her. She's
I was gonna
wonderful.
say that I feel like the things that I have the hardest time forgiving myself for are when I think about like past me doing something that I thought later was like weak
Mm,
or like desperate or like yeah, just like vulnerable and embarrassing and it
mhm,
like didn't pan out for me. Like later me would be just like feel a lot of shame about how I handled the situation. Like, oh, like you weren't strong enough. You weren't confident enough there. Like you should have, after the fact, you think of 12 things you could have said in the moment and then you didn't. You just like let yourself be like walked all over or, let somebody treat you badly. And why weren't you better in the moment? Um, and I feel like as I've gotten older, I try really hard to think back on like younger Rebecca and just like give myself more grace and be like, wow, like I was 19,
yeah,
like, or I
yeah.
was 20, like, you know, I was still like a kid, like I'm still learning and like nothing I did was really that wrong. Like I just reacted how I reacted or I felt how I felt or I handled the situation with like the tools that I had at the time and like, you grow from that and you just, like, can't punish yourself forever for not doing things perfectly or how you might do them now, how you did them in the past.
Totally. And I think sometimes too, as we like work through that, like this, okay, I gotta, be kind to myself about that. Like we were saying, I was operating with like the tools I had at the time. It helps you to relate to other people too.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
I think about that, especially too with like, I don't know, like boy situations in college and stuff like that. And like there are guys who treat you like so poorly
Yeah,
or
like,
like, and I'm not saying we have to
garbage.
forgive them all, that's not what I'm saying, or, we don't have to forget everything, but, like, sometimes you're like, "You know what?" Like, that kid was also 18 and probably also, like, very confused and didn't
Yeah.
know how to handle the situation, and so he handled it, like, the way he thought was best. Was
Mhm.
it? No.
Yeah.
But,
But then you
because
also
we
think,
all,
like,
like
who taught him, like, how to communicate? Like, did he
right.
have good examples of that? Was he ever held accountable for things, like, in his
Totally.
life? Like, you know, it it sucks when you realize just, like, yeah, everyone's kind of the product of, like, what they've learned, and, like, people,
Right.
at a certain point, you have to take agency and, like, make yourself a better, a better version of yourself, or
Totally.
grow and learn, and, you can't just be like there's, like, a statute of limitations on how long you can blame your parents for everything that happened in your childhood,
I haven't
but
reached it yet, I'm convinced.
it's long, but it's there at some point, and yeah, but yeah, you just, like, look back and like you were saying before, like, you have some empathy sometimes for, like,
Totally.
yourself and also other people to be like, "Yeah, maybe they didn't have the best tools either."
And, once again, I don't think that that at all means you have to accept the behavior or think it's okay by any means, but you're able to kind of be like, "Okay, I get that." Like, even as I look back on that story from years ago of my friend who told me I wasn't invited to her birthday party, was that a good way to handle it? No. I mean, first of all, maybe she didn't like me, and that's why she didn't invite me, and that's allowed. Like, she's allowed to not invite someone she doesn't like to her birthday party. Also too, like, maybe she was struck. I honestly I don't know. She probably doesn't remember now, but, like, maybe she was feeling insecure and, like, maybe there was something nice about having the ability to not have someone there, because, like, we all go through those periods where we feel like we're not chosen, and there's, like, a little bit of power in feeling like you get to decide who comes and who doesn't.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's, like, a normal human feeling, and then she probably just, like, chose not the best response to that feeling, you know? Um,
Yeah.
and she was also 8, so it's, you know, happens to the best of us at 8. Um, but yeah, and sometimes too, if I'm really having trouble, like, forgiving myself, I'll, like, think about what someone else would say to me, like a friend would say to me if I talked to them, or what I would say to a friend if they were
Mhm.
going through the same situation, or I would literally just call a friend and be like, "Please talk me down."
Yeah.
But it's really tough, and I feel like it's hard. I don't know, maybe particularly around this time of year too, like, it can be challenging. I mean, I think it could probably be challenging at any point in time in your life, but, um, it's really it's a lot of work, and I mean, this is why they pay therapists the big bucks, so I'm just we're just here showing, like, the little nuggets of information that we have and in our own, um experience, but I thought, like, there was this one final question that I thought was really interesting because this article was saying that, forgiving others gives us, like, inner strength and safety, and I was just like, I don't know, I was thinking about, like, do I feel that way? Like, does forgiving other people make me feel that way? And I feel like I relate more so toward the safety part, not really the inner strength. I don't know if I feel like, "Oh, I'm so strong for all these people I've forgiven." Like,
Right.
but I think this, like, safety to know that I forgive other people and therefore others probably forgive me too. Like, there's just
Right.
kind of this, like, comfort of the fact that no one's perfect and we all make mistakes, and I've made a million mistakes just like I'm sure everyone else has, big and small. So, I liked that part. I don't know if I feel strong for forgiving other
I
people.
know, I don't feel like it, like, gives me a sense of strength. And in some cases, I often felt like when I was saying about being critical of myself, I feel like some of the times I felt critical were times where I actually felt like I forgave people too quick who like
Mm,
didn't apologize, didn't deserve it, didn't change their behavior at all, and I just wanted everything to be fine and great, so I just kept like forgiving people without them even asking for it, and in the
yeah.
process let myself sort of be treated badly. So I felt like sometimes forgiving people made me feel weak instead of strong. I feel like
That's really
forgiving
interesting.
yeah, I'm like thinking about it now, and I distinctly remember feeling like I shouldn't have just like rolled over so quick about that. Like I shouldn't have just like acted like everything was fine and that no feelings were hurt. And I thought at the time I was like maybe being the bigger person, but I think in fact I was sort of like not being honest about what actually like hurt me. I think there is strength in forgiving yourself.
Yeah.
I think that has made me feel stronger. Like giving myself grace and being like, it's okay, and I've grown, and um yeah, not being so hard on myself makes me feel stronger, I think. But I agree with you on the safety. I feel like when you forgive other people that you care about, it also like gives room to be like, I'm also not perfect, and I'm sure I'll do something at some point to like, offend someone at some point, and
Yeah.
then hopefully they'll remember that I understood it when they made a mistake, and they'll understand mine, and we'll just keep, growing and apologizing and being better versions of ourselves.
Totally. I agree.
So that is all of our thoughts on forgiveness for this episode. Feel free to let us know what you think on Instagram at sisterlypod. Let us know, do you forgive and forget? How do you handle forgiveness? Um, we'd love to hear more about it. Um, take care of yourselves this holiday season, and if you need people to talk to, or you have questions to ask, please feel free to reach out to us. We love hearing from the people who listen. um, Thanks for being here, and we'll catch you on the next one.